The National Aboriginal Health Organization was an organization that excelled in the promotion and development of health information for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis populations. Last year, we had close to 5 million hits on our website and 640,000 downloads of health information. And we were hoping that this would continue into the future.
NAHO's mandate has been to advance the health and well-being of Aboriginal people. And over the last 12 years, NAHO has made significant contributions in regards to that.
Well, in my community, the very first time that I was aware of NAHO is when that I went as a community health representative to Montreal, where they were holding a big conference on mental health. And as you know, that mental health is one of the problems that affected all walks of life, and there didn't seem to be anything going on at home in the Yukon to help that.
There's a lot of health issues in all of our communities in Canada, Aboriginal communities, and I've worked with them for many years. And I think that the underlying issues are the most serious ones. We deal with a lot of social issues, and in that way there's many things that we have to deal with. There's just so many that we deal with every day. And I work in youth addiction, so I work with it on a daily basis. So I know that social issues are the biggest issues that we have right now.
A health issue in the past for my community has been substance abuse, and it kind of snowballed from that into suicide. In the past, the main form of substance abuse has been alcohol, but it seems that there's a recent trend to abuse of opiates.
I think sadly enough, Aboriginal communities today, health issues are by far not at the level that they should be. We suffer from a lot of chronic diseases. We suffer from a lot of mental health issues. We suffer from, diabetes is an epidemic amongst our communities.
In my community, we have a high rate of diabetes, and that's the most crucial thing that we have in our community. The rate of diabetes, and also the juvenile diabetes, that's really have a huge impact both on the youth. We don't have foods that are available like that from the south. We had to order them in from outside the community. They're not available in our stores.
In my community, there's a lot of health issues, especially with the younger children, not getting enough exercise, playing video games, and really should be outdoors and doing a lot of exercise.
Compared to the past, when our people had very good health, they lived a very positive lifestyle where they were eating lean meats and wild foods. We had very strong, healthy families, communities, and nations. And now, unfortunately, mostly because of lifestyle, because of poverty issues, because of the impact of colonization, a great number of people in our communities are really struggling with very serious health concerns. And our concern is especially for the young people, that the younger generations are having even poorer health than their parents and grandparents because of the poor lifestyle and poor diet and struggling rates with obesity and diabetes and a lot of lifestyle health concerns.
The past and current health conditions are among Aboriginal populations in Canada have been different than those among the general population. Chronic diseases, for example, certain types of cancer, diabetes, have been more prevalent, and there's a higher rate of suicide and chemical substance abuse, physical abuse, depression, and many health concerns that are just much more prevalent.
So according to Health Canada, the leading causes of death for First Nations are one, external causes, things like motor vehicle collisions and suicide and poisonings. Two, circulatory diseases, things like heart attacks and strokes. And then three, cancers. So for example, the suicide rate for First Nations people in Canada is 3 times that of the rate for Canadians, the general population in Canada.
We had so many discussions about, well, what are we? What is the National Aboriginal Health Organization? And we really came to the understanding that we were a knowledge organization, that it was really important that we stick to that mandate and we don't get into mandates that belong to other organizations.
The goals for NAHO is to conduct, improve, and promote research to enhance the health and well-being of Aboriginal people, to increase the understanding and awareness of health and well-being of Aboriginal people. They've done a lot of work in supporting and promoting traditional and Western-based health careers. NAHO's been at the forefront of promoting these careers over the years.
One of the most important things that NAHO has done is really working on advancing Aboriginal-controlled, Aboriginal-based research within the Aboriginal communities, so that it's no longer the situation necessarily that it's our people are being seen as a problem to be studied by researchers and academies that are sort of looking down on us, but allowing the people in the community to start having the knowledge to participate in and to work on their own research, to start taking control and dealing with their own health outcomes.
I started with NAHO as a result of an ad that went out looking for people to be on the board. And I was pretty excited about it because it had been the first time that I saw all the national Aboriginal organizations working together to form a health entity, which I thought could be of benefit.
Over the years, NAHO has received all of its funding from Health Canada to undertake knowledge-based activities, including education, research, and knowledge dissemination. All materials published by NAHO are put through an established approval process to ensure that the information presented was credible, timely, and accurate. Many of the publications, like the Journal of Aboriginal Health, are peer-reviewed prior to being accepted for publication by the organization.
I think the best way is to work with the communities and determine what the communities need. And then, like for NAHO's role, having a lot of information available online, and for things like radio spots and bulletins and videos, for example, toolkits I found really, really helpful for the communities to have.
In the last year, we started a online program called Radio NAHO, which were half-hour programs that promoted things like traditional knowledge, diabetes, and was current on a number of health topics.
That was an exciting project. It was basically a series of talks by some of Canada's leading First Nation thinkers on health topics, from vaccination programs to how to make your home safe and Indigenous knowledge.
Radio NAHO is about health, your health. On this show, we'll be looking at the pressing health questions that concern our communities. We plan to take a holistic approach and gain a better understanding of health issues from a First Nations perspective. So, just to provide some context for our discussion, what is the incidence of diabetes in First Nations people in Canada today?
It is significantly higher than the general population. It is certainly an emerging epidemic as we speak. We're looking at, in some communities, extremely high rates, among the highest rates found in the world.
Just when we launched the episodes, they got about 4,500 visits on the websites, and the episodes themselves were downloaded about 400 times.
It's still available on our website. It was distributed to First Nations reserves across Canada, and it was really well accepted. I thought it would be an exciting way to get health information out there.
The transfer of knowledge to the communities is key, and to help communities deal with their issues and then be able to move from there into to more prevention. Lots of times we deal with crisis situations, and prevention is the best medicine.
I believe the impact is in the form of networking. I know back in 1992, 1993, we had many suicides in the community. At that time, the people felt that they were alone, and we had a gathering of healers, and people from outside the community came in, from the region as well as nationally, to support the community and help them through that. So I believe that when projects that NAHO held in the community as well, it kind of builds on that network that was established, and it kind of maintains that network. It even helps to expand those types of networks. So the people that were involved back in '92, they could, I guess, expand their networks when NAHO came in. And because those networks are existing, people can expand on those as well.
One of the unique aspects of NAHO was to be respectful and inclusive of all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis populations, including men, women, children, youth, and the elderly, and those living in urban and rural locations.
The uniqueness about NAHO was that we had 3 centers, the First Nations Center, the Inuit-Tutarvinit Center, and the Métis Center, and each one had population-specific health research on a wealth of health information. And this information really filled the gap where there was very little population-specific health information on Aboriginal peoples.
The centers took a little longer to get up and running, simply because each group, each people was at a very different place developmentally. First Nations had resources and capacity, and they were ready to take off. Inuit had resources but limited capacity, and Métis had no resources and no capacity. So it was to try to develop an organization based on these principles that said everyone needs an equal chance.
Hi, my name is Camille Lem, and I'm the past director of the First Nations Center at the National Aboriginal Health Organization.
Hi, my name is Catherine Graham. I was the Métis Center Director from 2008 until 2012.
I'm Diane Kinnan. I was Director of Inuit-Tutarvinit at the National Aboriginal Health Organization. My role as Center Director was multifold. So I was the team leader for our small but very productive team. It takes quite a lot of work to both do research and collect knowledge and then share it in ways that are useful to people. So we had staff who were real experts in community liaison, project management, research, communications. We produced a lot of written materials, and we again tried to really gear those to the audience. So fact sheets for service providers to use with their clients, briefs to provide to knowledge users, decision makers. We did a fair amount of work in audiovisual materials. We produced a television show in 2009. That was a real highlight. It was a 6-hour live show shown over 3 nights, and it was a call-in show, and there was audiovisual hookups to some communities, and that was a great way to actually create a dialogue on some of the issues, which we do try to do as much as possible. One particular highlight at the NAHO level was the national conference held in 2009. we brought together an elder from each of the 4 Inuit regions, and they did a workshop where they actually brought some of the healing materials that would have been used traditionally, and they talked about Inuit approaches to healing. And to have the 4 of them in the room was probably the first time that had ever happened at the national level. And the people in the audience were so appreciative to learn, what the knowledge was, and that it was so long-standing. It's still being used in Inuit communities. So that was a real highlight.
My role as the director of the First Nations Centre was to manage a team to advance the health of First Nations people in Canada. The centre served over 700 First Nations people in Canada, and we tailored publications programs to specific audiences. So for example, the HIV/AIDS fact sheets, we tailored those to First Nations people in the roughly an age 13 to 30 bracket, whereas guides on cervical cancer, those were tailored for healthcare providers serving First Nations people in places like hospitals and clinics. We also published a guide on how to prevent suicide among two-spirited people. I have those here with me. So here's the guide on cervical cancer, and this is the guide on suicide prevention to two-spirited people. We also contributed to increasing the number of First Nations healthcare providers in Canada. Last year we awarded $1,000 bursaries to 10 First Nations post-secondary students studying nursing, kinesiology, and other health studies. The highlights of my work at NAHO were one would be publishing 4 issues of the journal Aboriginal Health. The journal is the way Aboriginal health researchers share their findings with the world. It reaches about 2,000 subscribers, and last year in a 9-month period, the journal was downloaded over 4,000 times. And I'm delighted that it's finding a new home with the Aboriginal Health Research Network Secretariat at the University of Victoria.
The Métis Centre was unique in the way it operated during the first years of NAHO. Whereas the centres were primarily located here in Ottawa, the Métis Centre worked to have community liaisons located in each of the provinces, and they worked directly with the provincial Métis organizations in assisting them to address their priorities. As time moved on, the Métis Centre centralized again here in Ottawa, and it began its efforts to create a foundation for Métis community-based research. In doing so, it worked with elders to develop an understanding of Métis perspectives on health and healing. I think one of our biggest accomplishments was the publication of 2 editions of the Métis Guide to Healthy Living, and it was a cookbook, and it integrated Métis knowledge into messages about healthy living and nutrition. And we were fortunate enough to be able to distribute over 30,000 of those across the country to not only Métis communities, but to schools, to First Nations communities, to pharmacies who distribute them, to Aboriginal clients who come in who've been newly diagnosed with diabetes. On the research side of things, I think that our biggest accomplishment was the development of a statistical database. The statistical database has over 6,000 sets of tables and graphs. They're all linked to the Aboriginal People Survey, the Aboriginal Children's Survey, and the census. With the support of Statistics Canada, we were able to have one of our staff members go there and actually do the analysis so that we could produce the tables and graphs. It marks a significant partnership between NAHO and Statistics Canada, but it also marked the opportunity for greater access to Métis statistics. So often when we look at Aboriginal health research, it excludes Métis, and even Pan-Aboriginal research is more often than not First Nations specific. And the National Aboriginal Health Organization, and specifically the Métis Centre, gave an opportunity to Métis communities, or to Métis on the ground, including researchers, community members, elders, to come together and have those discussions.
It's too bad it didn't get a chance to continue to develop, because I know the Métis Centre was just for probably 2 or 3 years starting to develop the kinds of things that needed to be out there.
I just want to say too that the centers, they did an excellent job on the work that they done. and they were doing some really good grassroots level work that the community's seen, they used, and I can see that's going to be a big void now for all communities across Canada.
Each of these centers advance the health and well-being of First Nations, Inuit, Métis populations by focusing on the distinctive needs of their respective population and promoting culturally relevant approaches to healthcare.
NAHO also sponsored a number of youth initiatives. These initiatives brought youth together from across Canada in mentorship and leadership roles.
12 role models were selected every year. A lot of these role models would go to communities during their reign, up to between 5 and 10 communities a year. Over the years, some of the role models have visited 50 communities and continue to do so.
My name is Jamie Coble. I'm Métis. I'm now 34 years old, but was nominated in 2004 and 2005 as sort of their first batch of NAHO role models. And part of my job was to go into the communities and to talk to young people about some of the things, both successes and barriers that I faced as a young person growing up. And I think one of the most rewarding parts of that was to be able to go back into my own community of Lac-La-Biche, Alberta, where there's a lot of Métis youth there, and to speak with them about just great things like the ability to be able to achieve your goals and to achieve your dreams.
The role model program, I guess, sticks out in my mind the most. And having seen the youth in the communities, doing presentations with groups in the schools, it's made a huge impact on programming for youth especially. And we all know that if we can get through to our youth, it'll make a big difference in the future.
Hello, my name is Justy Epsek Daud. I am a Nuttiling Mute Inuk from Cougar.
I'm a proud Highland from Haida, British Columbia. I'm Métis. I'm originally from Isle of La Crosse, Saskatchewan.
I'm Algonquin from Long Point First Nations, and I'm also Telcan from Northern BC.
I think they've nominated me because, well, I like to motivate them and try to keep them out of drugs and other kind of nasty things like that.
Dream big, and to follow those dreams to success and happiness. I will encourage them to lead their own way.
As a role model this year, I want to share that I believe it is so important to honor every aspect of our lives and keep moving forward in a positive way, no matter what barriers we experience. I want to encourage everyone to live a healthy, happy, positive, and active lifestyle. I truly believe that attitude is everything, and with a positive attitude, we can accomplish our goals. Hawa, thank you.
The National Aboriginal Health Organization's National Aboriginal Role Model Program was put in place for youth between 13 and 30 years of age to celebrate outstanding achievements amongst their peers. In fact, their peers would nominate them to get this award, which over years had become a really big deal for Aboriginal youth. Some of the roles that the Aboriginal youth role models would take on would be to go and talk to schools, would go to talk to conferences and communities to talk about some of the things that they had gone through in a sort of inspirational message. I think that the NAHO role model program was significant in that a lot of young people looked forward to the possibility of being nominated as one of the 12 per year who were selected, and also the training that went behind the role model program was a great way to provide some skills for the young people that would last for a long time.
My message to Aboriginal youth is be proud, be honest, and be determined, as these are key to living a healthy lifestyle. Live life to the fullest and remember peace.
I think that's been so vitally important for many people across Canada have somebody to look up to and that they can relate to. rather than being, unfortunately, caught up in such a negative environment many times. It's so important to initiate change by having somebody to inspire and motivate.
When we heard that NAHO was closing down, we were concerned that the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people continue to have access to the website. So now what we've done is the website is online for the next 5 years to December 2017. And recently we made an arrangement with the University of Ottawa's medical school. Their library will house all the NAHO information basically forever. So that's an exciting development.
A recent survey of our website showed that 60% of the people that accessed the website were health practitioners. Over 40% of the people were from the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities, and over 80% were women that accessed the products and services as well.
Last year, we had close to 5 million hits on our website and 640,000 downloads of health information. And we were hoping that this would continue into the future.
We have a very active website, so we do try to post and keep information on the website as up to date as possible.
The information online, the toolkits, is very, very helpful. In my line of work, that's the kind of work that we do, is education and prevention, and we do treatment with youth. So having those kinds of resources available online was a huge benefit. And it was really positive to see that, and so many people using it.
We, the health staff, they make connection, like what's been posted on the website of NAHO, and that's one instrument that they use. And there's a huge good information that NAHO had provided.
I did a lecture in the fall, and a First Nations person in the audience said when they found out they had diabetes, the site they went to was NAHO's website, and it was heartwarming for me to hear that our website is being used by everybody, including individuals, and this will be a way that NAHO can benefit the Aboriginal community and the health community well into the future.
I have seen a number of people who have come and talked to us and said that when they had concerns or they were looking for information, they automatically went to the NAHO website and were able to access the kind of information they needed about either their own health concerns or for their community, something they were working on. So I think it's going to have an impact long after NAHO is gone, is that research that is still out there that we did, that knowledge that will exist long after NAHO is no longer.
One of the sites that we had is called Honoring Life Network, which dealt with suicide prevention, and at one time there were over 100 counselors on it, and I think something like 700 people were involved in the Facebook site that we had, and that was quite exciting.
So all the First Nation Center's publications and information on our programs are available on NAHO's website at www.naho.ca. Please visit the site and get copies of our information. The site will be up until December 2017.
In the end, what we're doing is we're distributing USB sticks across Canada, particularly to communities that have difficulty downloading information. You may have poor internet access. So we're trying to provide the information on an ongoing basis for the next 5 years to 2017. So all the publications and the legacy for NAHO will live on beyond our closing.
When NAHO received notice that it was going to be closing its doors, I received a phone call from an elder in Alberta who had participated on the Elders Council when the Métis Centre was first established. She said that participating in the Métis Centre's work resulted in her finding her voice. And now that woman is a very strong advocate in her community. She's older and she's beyond retirement, but she is advocating for her people, and she is coordinating programs and developing programs in her community. And so I think that was probably a testament that's a real testament of the impacts that Métis have experienced as a result of the work that we've done.
It's just been my pleasure and an honor to be a part of and be involved with this organization that I see has made such positive effect with many people, and I just hope that that momentum can continue.
It's a shame that NAHO is being shut down, because I think our people are just going forward in everything now. Now it's closing the doors. Hopefully we will be able to have something else going on similar to NAHO, and to keep the doors open for First Nations people.
I think the highlight for me was really, it actually broadened my knowledge and understanding, and really met some very interesting people from across the country, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit. And you get to understand the breadth of culture and the uniqueness of where people come from, you know, because we really were coast to coast to coast.
I'd also like to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve as the chair of the National Aboriginal Health Organization. And many thanks and many blessings to the elders who guided us and supported us throughout the years. I'd also like to say thanks to the board, the members, the partners and collaborators, the staff, and Health Canada, health practitioners, everyone that accessed our resources and helped the National Aboriginal Health Organization be the great resource that it has been over the years. To this I say miigwech, and I ask everyone, every researcher that's out there, to continue their much needed research on Aboriginal health and wellness.